Hi, and welcome to my channel. Sty Swan here. Here you'll see me use an old hardcover book to turn into a new journal. I'm just finding where I'm going to start. So what I usually do is about 3 pages of this size. I place masking tape down the middle, mainly because it actually helps with inks, etc., not to pass through as much into the next area of your book. So now I'm just gluing the pages together with just a glue stick. You can use Mod Podge, or you could use any gel medium just to get a good seal. I often will use, like my driver's license here, just to smooth out any holes, bubbles, just to give it a reasonably smooth surface. It's not important, as it can also add to your texture on your pages. So I'm also adding some masking tape down the middle of the next, what would be the next section, just so I know where I'm starting from next time I open my book. So here I'm putting just some baking paper down to not add any gesso to the next area. So I'm just now gessoing the page very quickly with a silicone brush and getting the page ready to start journaling. So I will dry this off because, as you know, gesso does take a little while to dry. And when that's dry, I will start to the next stage. So now I'm getting the Posca pen out and I'm writing. Believe in yourself. It's a good expression. Believe in what you're doing. So now I'm just writing over yourself. So if you're writing over yourself, you're just covering up what you've previously written, so it's becoming illegible to anyone else. So you can express whatever feelings you like. You could be telling what's happening on the day, you can be expressing something that's annoying you, you could be expressing something that's brought you massive joy, you could write down your doubts, you could put down some quotes, some inspiration. So adding some gesso, and because the Posca was actually still wet, it created a smoky grey effect. So I went with it. This is what journaling is about. Sometimes you make a slight miscalculation on what you're doing and a new look has arrived. And I used finger paint to add the titanium white acrylic to the surface. Now I'm grabbing a circle stencil, a baby wipe and some red paint to add some texture through a different colour, and I don't add much paint to it, and as I'm moving it around it becomes paler and paler as I'm taking it off the stencil. So now I'm adding some papers that I've cut out of a paper pack that I got from Kaisercraft, and these show letters. So what you'll probably see in most of my journals is I actually use letters, music and small words to build up my backgrounds, because it's something that I find is required for my way of thinking. You can use whatever you like. You can use old cardstock, which I've done in past too, and I probably will show you that further on. Using gel medium, and I'll make sure everything is down as much as I can. So now this piece of paper here has actually, it's got the music, actually has a couple of cute butterflies, so I'm going to keep those off the side to use as a focal point later on in the project. So again, gel medium to place it all down, and as you can see I've just rearranged so one's over and under. while it's wet, you can rearrange if it doesn't quite look right, putting one over the other. You can swap it around. This is personal choice, and I'm just going with the flow to whatever it feels me. I'm trying to get it in a certain, where one's top, one's bottom, and letting them merge across to each other, just to give a couple of areas that aren't as blank. So this is a book that I use for pages, and I actually often tear off the empty space and just use the writing, and I put them upside down, sideways, back to front, just to, again, what can be seen through your next coating will come through. I do apologise for the umming, that's just the way I speak. Now, I'm still just gelling, and what I'll do is I'll make sure all the areas are down and continue to do it. And this new silicone brush that I've bought from an art supply shop is absolutely brilliant. It's small enough that it's easy to manage, and it works exactly like a brush, but it's silicone based, so it actually spreads the gesso and the gel medium really, really well. And I was really impressed with the way this can be used. And because it's easy to wipe off to clean, it means you don't have brushes that are getting sticky, etc. around, and it's really, really easy to use, and it puts things on thinly, which is good. So now I'm actually, again, adding some titanium white to the page, just to tone down the background and merge it in together. So I just continue putting this titanium white, and it doesn't need to be expensive brand paint. I do also started using the golden brand just to try it out, but this is just a cheap acrylic, and it works beautifully. Because it's titanium white, it doesn't have a clear aspect to it, so it actually will cover if you wish to cover a mistake. Now I'm just using another stencil. This one is from Kazaz. Just adding a older modelling paste, which is actually thicker than it should be, but it's because it's getting to the end of its use, and it's been used for a few years. And because of the gel medium, the stencil actually sticks to the page a little bit more, but that's all right. It's doing the shape I want. I'm just putting different, not the full stencil out, I'm just using parts to highlight areas, and using smaller and smaller amounts of the stencil, and just cleaning off the edges because it will dry there and will break off at a later date. So nearly finished with my stenciling, just cleaning off my spatula, and there we go. Now I've skipped a bit here. We had some problems, as you know, I've been having problems with the way I've set up. Because I use an iPad, it often is hard to set up. So I've actually been using the Delusion sprays. I've got white, I've got the blue, red, and a black just to spray. Sorry about the quality of the looking of the photo. It didn't quite come out the way I wanted. I'm just drying inside where the ink has gone through, and as you see, I've actually fussy cut out the butterfly. Just drying off the paint, which just gives it, and you can dry the back, which will actually dry it better, because if you're just drying the surface, the back is still wet, so it's actually just going to retain that wetness as you're doing. So if you dry the back a little bit, you will actually have a better dried surface. So I'm also making sure that the red mailbox colour, I think it's called, is showing up. Just a second, I'll get the names of those. So the colours I used was the black marble, post box red, London blue, and the white linen. So as you see, I'm just adding drops here and there of the black, just to give it some depth to the background. The blue's been added, as the blue's actually in the butterfly, so I wanted to bring that in. I was actually going to just do a black, red and white, but as there was blue in the butterfly, I felt it needed some blue on the back just to make sure it all melded together. So I'll continue adding slowly the inks just to where I want them to place. Sometimes spraying, yes, it works great, but I find that just taking the nozzle out and placing the nozzle works well. Now, due to the fact I wasn't well, I've actually sewn, using my chair, I've actually sewn together the pieces that I was using as the focal point and glued them down. Now back at my desk, I've actually rearranged and tried to set up a better way of viewing. So this is me, hi. So I'm just using some black gesso now with a different stencil. This one's of roses, and as you've seen, I went through a couple of different palette knives before I went back to the silicone, and it's actually all melded together, which wasn't very happy. So I've sponged it off into a junk journal that I use for other things. So because I found it really black, I decided to add some glitter because it made me feel better. So I've glitter sprayed the black gesso just to keep it there. So drying it off, you can see the glitter there. It's a bit of a running joke with myself. A lot of other crafters find glitter is a curse to the crafting industry. I love glitter. It gets everywhere. I often will find glitter either on my face, my husband's face, where it's just ended up landing. It doesn't matter whether you use a little bit or a lot, it just seems to go everywhere. So now I'm just using my Posca pen just to add some more areas, making sure that the focal point is set down. I use some glossy accents there. So I'm just doodling a little bit just to see what I want to do and what needs doing. So I went looking for some words, and I found this spiral one in some of my words that I've got off the shoot, which says, "Sometimes you have to climb a mountain to see the beautiful view." Very true. So I've added that, and it kind of melded in a bit. So I've tried to play with it a little bit to try to get it to highlight, but because it's clear and the writing is in gold, it kind of really loses it on the page. I tried putting the black around to bring it forward. Yes, you can see the spiral, but the wording really doesn't push out. So this actually got really annoying, so I actually took it off, as you can see here, and I then got some of the golden titanium white, and I'm trying to sponge it out to try to highlight the area where I'm putting these words. So as I've done that, I've just cleaned off my finger on another section, and now I'm trying by putting this back down. It's very messy, and I'm actually getting the paint on the actual wording, so which is very annoying. So I'll have to use a nappy wipe to clean that off at some point. And because I took it off and it's now on a wet surface, I've had to get the glossy accent out to glue it back down. When something doesn't quite go to the way you want, you often just have to fiddle until you're happy with it. Either that or scrapping it all together. I didn't want to scrap it because I really loved the wording, but I realised that it wasn't going to be sufficient, so I just kept playing. I lost the small butterfly in the process, which was really a shame, because I think the small butterfly really was needed on the page, but happy accidents, they say. And the finished product, as you would have seen in the prelude, and you'll see later, it seems to work, but I really rather sad that I actually lost that butterfly in the back. I'm just cutting, because it's going over the join, I've just cut it so it doesn't have a problem with the folding. When I close the book now, it actually will still bubble up a bit, but it's not as bad as it would have been if I'd left it whole. So now I'm trying to add some white paint that I had in a long nose bottle to run down the page. It wasn't thin enough, so I've actually had to spray water, and it's activated the Postbox red spray and is creating a pink running down the page. Not an issue really. I've added some more water to it and it's running a lot better now, so it's running down, and I'll use the dryer to dry that off so I can continue adding white etc down. But yes, it definitely got the runs of the reds really got activated there. I am a messy crafter, but as you've seen, I was using nappy, a white, or I'll use a hand towel, a paper hand towel, just to dry off my desktop surface. I actually use a glass as my worktop. It's one of those high non-crackable glasses that you use like for the cupboards of TV cabinets, etc. And it's actually a nice size to use, and it just works. It's a lot easier to use. I've got to work out the background to it because as I'm trying to organise my space. You just see my husband come through and give the hard-working crafter some refreshment as I continually add some drips. And as you've seen, I actually for the second page, I actually turned the book upside down and had the drips going the other way to add another dimension to the page. The final product, it kind of melds in, but it's there. It's not as bright as what I was hoping for, but at the same time, it doesn't always come to the way. So this is me expressing myself, and I really love the idea of paint stripping. It's the waterfalling effect of paint. It just really is me. It's just how I really enjoy it, and I find it adds a really lovely flow. So just spraying a bit more glitter there. There's my nice refreshment for my husband, just showing you what I've got to date. And here is the final product. I've actually added some extra words. If dream big, and if you can dream it, you can do it. It really needed the punch of that black wording, and this is my final product. I hope you enjoyed my video. Please come back again. Bye.